We've got Pro Bowl announcements, and we're going to break it down on today's DNVR Broncos podcast. Who was the biggest snub? Plus, we are breaking down the Broncos game. Is it a lock that they're going to beat the backup Chiefs team this week? We're going to give our final predictions, and Baldy is joining us, and it all starts now. Congratulations to 3 Broncos on being named Pro Bowl starters. And we're going to break it down on the DNVR Broncos podcast. We got Super Bowl 50 champ Todd Davis, Henry Chisholm, you here behind the camera, and yours truly, Zach Stevens, rocking and rolling with you live from the Toyota Lounge inside the DNVR bar, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores. And of course, we're presented by Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up to get $150 in bonus bets. Fellas, Happy New Year, and we're starting the new year off with some good news. Pat Surtain, Nik Bonitto, and Marvin Mims is a returner have all been named Pro Bowl starters on this Broncos team. How are we feeling to start the new year about that?
I feel good. I feel like, Nick wasn't a shoo-in, so I think it's a big honor that he got chosen. I think that really shows how well he's playing this year. Pat and Marvin Mims, don't want to diminish what they're doing, but they were Pro Bowlers last year. It was more obvious that they could be Pro Bowlers this year, but I think Nik Bonitto, hats off to him for just how well he's played this year, because I think he was in no one's conversation to be a Pro Bowler before the season started, but he's playing at a really high level. He's earned every honor that he'll receive this year.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Pat and Marvin, they're going to be Pro Bowlers every year for a long time. It's just nice to see Bonitto join him.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned it. Typically, it takes like 1 year of good play before you're actually named a Pro Bowler. That even happened with Pat Surtain, crazy enough. As a rookie, he probably should have been a Pro Bowler, but it was like, he's a rookie. We need to see it for a second year. But Nik Bonitto, this was his breakout year. He didn't have to wait that other year. And not only did he not have to wait, he was named a starter. I mean, he was one of the 2 best outside linebackers in the AFC. TJ Watt and him are those guys, which is just incredibly impressive. And you're spot on, Todd, just about how he didn't have to wait a year, which just shows how good his season is. He might be staring down all-pro recognition this year as well. And my biggest takeaway when I look at this is we typically, and we're going to focus on the snubs as well, but we focus so much on guys that are disrespected and not given their respect. Let's focus on the guy that is given his respect, and that is Pat Surtain. 3 of the first 4 years, he is named a Pro Bowler. He is the front runner to be the Defensive Player of the Year this year. People finally recognize how great Pat is, and he might end with like the most Pro Bowls of any cornerback in NFL history, because I don't think he's going to miss a Pro Bowl moving forward. And so it's so cool, especially in the past 10 years of the Broncos when they have gotten barely any recognition and they've got hurt for the team that's around them. It's really cool to finally have a guy where we don't need to pound the table anymore for Pat. He is finally getting the national recognition he deserves.
Yeah, you know how like there's certain colleges, it's like running back U or LBU, like
Sac State running back you?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it, because even good running backs don't stay there long.
Shout out Scat.
Shout out Scat. Can we be like, not cornerback U, but we might have like the best cornerback lineage of any NFL team.
Well, it's kind of like the Steelers are known for the linebackers.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I mean,
From
you got
John Lynch to Pat Surtain to Akib and Chris.
Champ.
Steve Atwater, Champ.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, you got many Hall of Famers.
Can we put Dawkins in there too?
Yeah. If we're going just secondary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The no-fly zone, you got branded names as well.
Yeah.
Guys on the Orange Crush. And then Pat looking like he's going to be the second first ballot Hall of Famer at cornerback for the Broncos.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy, yeah.
It really is. I love that. Okay, guys, let's get to the disrespect now. We only mentioned 3 names.
That was so quick.
You have
A
anything
little
else?
bit of love, and then now we're getting right to like.
Because
let's get to
I think it's kind of what you said, though, is like we knew the 2 guys were going to be. We knew Marvin because he is by far the best returner in the AFC. It's nowhere close, and he's really taken off the second half of the season, too.
Yeah.
We knew Pat, and you guys gave the kudos to Nick.
Sure.
So now we move on to the guys that didn't get kudos. But really quick, one more thing. Marvin Mims has joined unreal company by being a Pro Bowler in his first 2 seasons in the NFL. Do you guys know how many guys, and Henry, you might already know this, so don't answer if you do. How many Broncos have been Pro Bowlers in their first 2 seasons in the NFL?
2.
What would your guess be?
I mean, Clinton Portis would have done it. I'll say it was like 5.
5? Okay. Todd, who's the other one besides Marvin Mims?
I have no clue.
You do. You know him well.
Vaughn?
Yeah, Vaughn.
yeah.
Marvin Mims and Vaughn, that's it.
No Portis?
That's crazy that Clinton wasn't, which is insane, actually, with how good of a start he had. Maybe looked at it. Maybe he was only defensive guys because I would have to imagine Clinton
No, he
would.
didn't
but
make it as a rookie.
Yeah.
1,500 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns.
That is absolutely.
That's
Talk about
crazy.
Pro Bowl
Yeah.
snubs
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
baller.
That was back when everybody did that.
so-
Not everybody, but a handful every year.
Right. So Marvin Mims and Vaughn are the only 2 to ever do that, which is incredible. Marvin, and now he's starting to turn on offense too, which is really exciting. So let's talk about snubs. Henry, who's the biggest snub on the Broncos for not making it?
I mean, it's Zach Allen. Like, that's the best. I mean, for him not to be one of the 3 best defensive tackles in the in the AFC is crazy. I think the fact they even call him a defensive tackle helped him because there are a bunch of those guys. Because he's not really a defensive tackle, but because of the way they categorize guys, like that should have helped him. But no, he's the 4th alternate. He is the 7th best defensive tackle in the AFC, and that's like it's just wrong. Like I think he had a strong case for number 1 this year.
He is number 1 this year, I think. And you're right. At least a top 3 guy. 100% I agree with you, Henry. He is definitely the biggest snub.
Yeah, I think he's playing the best. I think the starters, they're all really talented, so it's tough to say who you would take out to put him in. And I think his just 3.5 sack game came just like
That's
one a week too late.
Yep.
Because he was playing really well to start the season. He's been playing great all year, but like the stats kind of like got quiet. Even though he's playing at a high level, if you don't have the stats to prove it week in and week out, I think people kind of forget about how well you're playing. So for like a 4 or 5 week run, his stats were kind of low and then just exploded last week. But I think it just came like a little bit too late.
You know
That's
what's crazy? That's shame on everyone but the fans. The fans had him voted as the 2nd highest defensive tackle for fan voting. He was only behind Chris Jones.
Yeah.
That's shame on players, executives, coaches who did the other voting in this for just looking at the stats too much. All of those guys should know how good Zach Allen has been.
Yeah. But the opposite happened with Nik Bonitto, where like he had a great season, but he has back-to-back games with no sacks after the voting ended. And so, again, he absolutely deserves to be in, but that 11.5 sacks in 14 games looks better than the 11.5 in 16 games.
And while they're voting, he has back-to-back weeks with touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like
Over and over, yeah.
he's on Pat McAfee. It just
Exactly.
makes sense that he now is like known for how well he's playing.
Yeah. And he's on the DNVR Broncos show.
And he's on
At
our
that time
show,
as well.
for sure.
And I mean, you look at any stat as well as watching the games. Zach Allen is 1 for defensive tackles in terms of pressure rate, in terms of quarterback hits, in terms of quarterback pressure. He's 1 in everything. There might be one stat that he's number 2, only behind Chris Jones. So literally, like, I guess if you wanted to put Chris Jones 1, Zach Allen 2, fine, but like he should be number 1 on here. So the shameful part is that he's a 4th alternate, which means he really might not actually make it.
He won't.
Yeah, and it sucks. Because he deserves it so much. But like we said, and why it was so impressive Nick got this year is you need kind of one breakout year, and then you get it next year. So Zach Allen should be that next year, but he definitely should have been it this year.
Yeah, I hate this for Zach because I feel like he wasn't like a no-name guy. Like he wasn't a big name, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's making $10 million a year. He wasn't a slouch coming in, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a tough break.
Yeah.
I think part of it too, defensive tackle is like, yes, there are all those stats. Nobody looks at them though. You know, like NFL fans, they see sacks, they see tackles for loss. Maybe they see tackles too for a defensive lineman. That's about it. when you
But
look
he
at the
won
guy,
he won the fan vote. That's
Yeah,
what exactly
he was
saying.
second.
He was
But
second.
I think even like the players, the coaches, I don't know that they're that locked in when they're making these votes. Because I bet they use the exact same platform that the fans use. It's obviously just sent to them and not out to everybody. So it's just those big stats that pop up. But I think that like the guy in Baltimore, Namdi, does he go by Namdi now? Matabuike.
Yeah.
There you go. Like, I think he's had a bad year. He has not done anything he did last year. But people learned all about him in the playoffs last year. I think sometimes that's what it takes for those guys to kind of get over the hump, is to do it in the postseason, do it in games where people are watching. When you're Zach Allen and you play, 3 primetime games, 4 primetime games all year, it just, you don't have much of a chance to make a name for yourself.
Yeah. I also think that Quinn Meinerz was snubbed. I think he should have deserved that. Garrett Bowles certainly should have been in the conversation, at least a higher up alternate. And one more takeaway just from this is no running backs, tight ends, or wide receivers were even given an alternate for the Broncos. I think it shows pretty clearly where the Broncos had 8 alternates, which is really impressive. Shows how much depth they have along with 3 starters. This is by far the most alternates plus starters the Broncos have had in many, many years, going back pretty much a decade. But Cortland, for not even getting an alternate, is kind of wild there.
Because he was 3rd in the fan vote.
Yeah, so
in the AFC.
The other people, the people in the NFL disrespected Cortland there. I definitely thought he should have been an alternate, but no position players even getting a nod in this.
Michael Burton.
Okay. No position players outside of Michael Burton getting a nod in this, and I think that shows where the Broncos will focus a lot of their energy this offseason.
Yeah. Quinn should have gotten in. He's right there with Zach. The Broncos have the best offensive line in the NFL, and they don't have a Pro Bowler. It just doesn't really make sense.
Well, I feel like these lists are always made up of guys on usually pretty good teams, either big names.
Yeah.
Like you think about Quentin Nelson, he was a big name since he came out, or you got 2 both starting guards for the Chiefs because they're
the Chiefs.
15-1. You know what I'm saying? I think you have to be either on a really good team or your name has to be big as a rookie, a first-round draft pick. They have to be expecting you to do good things for you to kind of be a shoe-in or win these awards easier.
Speaking of the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes did not make it this year. And Bo Nix actually had more of the fan voting than Patrick Mahomes, which is just crazy. And Bo, a 4th alternate, so probably won't make the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
But, hey, being mentioned as a rookie, that's a pretty good start right there.
Pat was an alternate?
Yeah. Pat's, I don't know if he's what number he is, but he was not. He didn't make the original roster.
Crazy team goes 15-1, and you can't even.
That's why they put both guards in. They're like, man, they got a terrible quarterback, and they're doing this. We got to put both guards in.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll break it down with Baldy joining us in just a minute. But before we do that, I got to give a shout out to our friends over at Shady Rays, where, yes, it's wintertime in Colorado, but that still means that it's going to be sunny here, so you need sunglasses. You might even need sunglasses more in the winter because of that snow when it's on the ground. It makes for even brighter times while you're driving, while you're skiing even. And over at Shady Rays, they not only have sunglasses, they have anything for your skiing and snowboarding purposes, all the goggles you could ever want. They've got so many options over at Shady Rays. Make sure to check them out. And the awesome thing about Shady Rays is they're already affordably priced. But then if you use the code DNVR, you're going to get 35% off all of their polarized sunglasses over at ShadyRays.com. That's an exclusive deal for our listeners. Go to ShadyRays.com, use the code DNVR. You might have some extra money from the holidays that people gave you. You can buy yourself a pair of Shady Rays, where over 300,000 people have given them 5 stars. That's over at ShadyRays.com.
And shout out to our friends over at Verizon. If you guys are looking for an extra $800 right after the holiday season, you got to tune in and listen to this ad. If you're tired of your phone bill draining your bank account, wish you could use that money for something more fun and exciting, well, Verizon feels your pain. For a limited time, new customers can get up to $800 in prepaid MasterCard to pay off your current smartphone loan when you switch. I mean, the holiday season is just over. I know everybody's bank account is looking a little bit lower than it was to start December. So if you need an extra $800, you got to check out our friends over at Verizon. You just trade in any phone from their top brands with select unlimited plans. Verizon gives you the 5G network to power your entire day, and they got you covered with their award-winning network. This deal won't last long, so don't get stuck on the bench. Again, it's $800. It's a lot of money, people. Switch to Verizon today and take control of your game plan. Visit your local Verizon stores for details.
Yeah, and shout out to our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. So just want to give a quick shout out to the alternates that made it. So Bo was the fourth alternate. Quinn was the first alternate, so he will likely, hopefully, get a shot, especially... the Chiefs make the Super Bowl. He definitely will, since two Chiefs guards got it. That will guarantee Quinn a spot in there. Garrett Bowles, third alternate at tackle. Zach Allen, fourth alternate. Brandon Jones, fifth alternate. Will Lutz, third alternate. Mike Burton, fourth alternate. And Mitch Framboni, long snapper.
Framboni.
What'd I say?
Framboni.
Oh, yeah, Fraboni, sorry. First alternate there. So Broncos might get a couple of these guys that sneak in, specifically Quinn and maybe Fraboni as well.
What are the stats for a long snapper to be either a Pro Bowler or alternate?
I've spent a lot of time actually talking to him about this. You go to longsnap.com. There's like this, I think it's, Kevin Gold. He tracks all of them.
Is that Chris Gold's brother?
I don't know.
Probably could be.
Yeah.
Since Chris Gold was special teams.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I've got them pulled up. Oh, it's so small.
There's got to be like miss rate, accuracy rate.
Oh, no, because nobody misses one. Like if you miss one, you're out of the league. It's all about tackles and forced fumbles and downing punts. No, he explained all of it. Let's see.
Wow. So
it's like tackle, like a special teams player, essentially.
Oh, totally.
Right. So it has nothing to do with long snapping itself.
No.
It's everything else.
Oh, yeah. Because, again, everybody's going to be able to make the snap. Yeah, I can't get the stats pulled up quick enough.
Dang.
Oh, well.
Well, let us know when you have them.
There's like that many stats.
Oh, there we go. Well, it's just a tough page because it's all in a PDF. So, Fraboni, he finished with 5 tackles, which...
5 tackles.
The Giants long snapper Casey Kreider, he actually also had 5, and that's it. Only one got a forced fumble this season. It was Joe Cardona with the Patriots.
Wow. Well, shout out for Fraboni for being the first alternate there. And shout out to our guy, Brian Baldinger, who's joining us, presented by Verizon with our Insider Access segment. New customers can get up to $800 in a prepaid MasterCard to pay off your current smartphone loan when you switch to Verizon. Let's bring him in now. Our guy, Brian Baldinger. Baldy, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. Can you see? Okay, here we go. I'm good, guys. Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well, Baldy. And we're starting the new year by looking at a Broncos game that's pretty much a win and end game for the Broncos, and also looking at some Pro Bowler news that just came down the wire. Broncos have 3 Pro Bowlers. They're all starters. Marvin Mims as returner, Pat Surtain at corner, and Nik Bonitto at outside linebacker. Do you think that 3 was right for the Broncos? Because Broncos country, including us, all thinks that Zach Allen definitely deserved to be in as well.
Yeah, he did. I mean, it's not even close. His, you look at any number, any measurable against Cam Hayward or Stone Cold Jones or Matabike, it's not even close. He's better than all of them, and he's had a better season. He's got 39 quarterback hits. I can't find anybody that has more. Maybe there are. I haven't seen it. But, yeah, I mean, between quarterback hits, the sacks, his dominance against Cincinnati on national TV last weekend, he got snubbed. I thought Quinn Meinerz got snubbed. I mean, the Broncos protect their quarterback as good as anybody in this business. He's a big part of it. I think both those guys got snubbed, honestly. I thought Quinn should have been over Quentin Nelson, and I'm the biggest Quentin Nelson fan there is. But I thought he was a better player this year than Big Q.
Yeah. No, it's kind of surprising that those guys got left out. The even crazier part to me is that not only did Zach Allen not get in, he's the 4th alternate. Like he finished 7th among all the defensive tackles in the AFC. I'm curious what you think about Nik Bonitto getting in, because obviously a great year, obviously deserved, but just what have you seen from him over the course of this year?
Well, I mean, you see the touchdowns, you see the splash plays.
Yeah.
The numbers. I think he had a sack, at least a half a sack, in I don't know 7, 8 straight games. He's been a pretty consistent player, but I thought he stepped up. Um, he became a full every down player this season, and I think he made the best of it. So I mean, you can put him out there. I mean, there's Trey Hendrickson and there's Miles, and look, there's Nick. I mean, I didn't think Max Crosby was worthy of it with his injury this year. He didn't play well, and I'm friends with Max, but I didn't see a forced fumble from him. I saw a lot more splash plays from Nick this year.
Baldy, we were talking about it. No running back, no tight end, no wide receiver was earned a Pro Bowl spot or was an alternate. Are there any snubs in there, or is that just where the Broncos are at right now?
I mean, you could make a case for Courtney for sure, Todd. I mean, he's played big. I mean, you're playing with a rookie quarterback. I mean, we've been doing this thing every week since the start of the season. Bo Nix couldn't complete a pass to a wide receiver to start the season. That's not Courtney's fault, but I mean, I thought he really came on. I think he's worthy of it. But there's, if you look around the league, I mean, some of these, the numbers are crazy what these receivers are coming down with right now. So I don't look. It's just where the offense is right now. There's some star power that's lacking, but that's okay. They play well as a group.
So, Baldy, going off of that, because you mentioned the star power lacking in the skill position players surrounding Bo, do you think that's going to be the Broncos' top priority this offseason, is whether it's running back, tight end, wide receiver? Or do you think that Sean thinks, hey, I can get those guys, I just really need to focus the money and tension to the inside, whether it's the offense or the defense like he has with offensive line? Or do you think we will see Sean go after some star-studded names at the outside?
Have you been watching this tight end from Penn State?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he looks like Gronk out there, man. Like, you give him Ty Warren and let him go to work. I mean, red zone efficiency. I mean, that guy looks like a beast to me. I mean, he's 265 pounds. He runs in the 4.6s. I mean, that guy looks like he's got star power written all over him. I'd love to see him, especially after you see what Brock Bowers did, with the Raiders this year. I mean, he's bigger, stronger, faster than Brock Bowers. I mean, he looks like a difference maker to me. Yeah, I think that will be their target, a big part of what they decide to do this year.
Since we're talking about it, I'm curious what you think of Cam Scatterbo as an NFL prospect.
I mean, he certainly had a great day. I haven't studied him a lot, but in a big moment, it's hard not to love him up at this point and see what happens next. But like I said, I haven't. I'm getting ready for the Hula Bowl. He's not playing in anything like that. I'll be at the Senior Bowl, it's draft season is around the corner. So I don't want to speak out of turn after just one game that I spent.
Baldy, I got to talk to you about this Broncos season and how it's kind of tailed off towards the end. The Broncos put themselves in good position to win one of their last 3 games to make the playoffs. They've lost the last 2 weeks, and I know they're going to be playing a few backup starters for the Chiefs. But is it time to panic? Should we be nervous? I know they're no walk in the park, but how should we feel right now as a fan base?
It's time. Like I'm telling people, like, I know Patrick Mahomes is going to have a baseball hat on and Travis Kelce. I would not underestimate Carson Wentz in this game at all. Like, you watched him in the last game last year when he was with the Rams against the 40. He went up to San Francisco. He ran it 16 times. Like, the guy, when he was in Philadelphia, I'm here in Philly, like, they were 36 for 38 doing quarterback sneaks way before the tush push. Like, if there's a yard to go, he's getting. He's a cyborg. If he's throwing to Juju Smith-Schuster or Hollywood Brown or Justin Watson, I mean, I wouldn't take this for granted. But to your point, look, they're still scoring points. They're still putting points up. I mean, they ran into a hot quarterback last week. I think Riley Moss, needed to get a game under his belt before he saw Joe Burrow. So I wouldn't panic, but I wouldn't take this game lightly at all. I know how the first game finished with the field goal block and all that. I wouldn't even pay attention to that. I just would finish the deal. Finish the deal. I'm going to be in New York this week doing the Jets in Miami, and Miami is going to be scoreboard watching with you guys in Kansas City. It's going off at the same time, 4:25. Like, finish the deal and get in the playoffs, and then let's talk about how they finish.
Baldy, to me, and I know this isn't how the Broncos are approaching it, but I certainly am kind of taking this one for granted because it is playing against some Chiefs backups. But if the Chiefs are going to pull up the upset, what's the key for them and the key for the Broncos to stop that upset, especially with key backups playing?
Well, I mean, I know Carson Wentz good. Like, he's watching Jared Goff take off. They came in the same draft. He's watching Sam Darnold have a revitalization. He's watching Baker, and he's saying to himself, "Why not me?" And if you give a quarterback a year with out there in Los Angeles with Sean McVay, and now you give him a year with Andy Reid, like, the guy is going to be rebuilt. Like, he's going to learn what it means to play quarterback, prepare, concentration on fundamentals. Like, they got to control Carson Wentz, and he's not easy to do it. That guy is 240 pounds. He's 6'5". He's healthy. Like, to me, they're going to have to play a great game defensively against him.
What do you do offensively? Because we don't know exactly who's going to be out. You'd imagine Chris Jones won't play. Like, Trent McDuffie maybe sits out. Do you look at this as a game where you obviously can't make mistakes, because when you're a 10-point favorite, interceptions, penalties, those are sorts of things that kind of flip those odds. You don't want to go into the game conservative, but at the same time, you can't be just giving the ball back to an off. You know where I'm going?
Yeah. Look, I mean, Kansas City just won a big game without Chris Jones. Like, Mike Dana stepped up and got 2 sacks. Charles Omena, who's back in the lineup. Karlaftis probably doesn't need to play, but I mean, they've been drafting these defensive players that are all playing for them over the last 3 drafts. So Joshua Williams, I mean, pick a guy at a position. I mean, they're drafting these guys, and they know how to coach them up. Spags will have these guys ready to play. I mean, there's still nobody better in this business. Maybe Brian Flores. There's still nobody better in this business to go hit a quarterback with a free hitter than Steve Spagnuolo. So, while a lot of these guys will certainly take the week off, I don't think they're going to take a lot of guys off because, they got the bye next week as it is. So you don't want to go 3 weeks without playing your top flight guys. Or maybe Trent McDuffie sits down, fine. But, I think Leo Chenal's going to play. The guy's 255 pounds. He just stuffs running backs in his business. I think they're going to have enough good players to play in this game that you better account for.
For the Broncos to win this game, I think it's very important for them to be able to run the football. I think Jalil kind of found his footing last week, averaging almost 7 yards a carry. First, what did you think of his performance last week, and what do you think he needs to do this week to help his team to win?
Well, he certainly looked fresher last week after missing, a little bit. So his legs were underneath him. But, I mean, that guy is smoked through a keyhole. Like, he's good. He's a good, quick back. He sees the holes quickly, and he takes advantage of it. So, I mean, I think, we have seen every one of these backs start, whether it's Austin or Semic or, Javante, whatever. I mean, he's just looking for a guy right now that can hit a hole the way you got to hit him in the postseason, when the defenses are just a whole lot better and more balanced. So I think it's important, to establish that this week against Kansas City, because you're going to need it in the postseason if you get there.
Yeah, and Baldy, speaking of if they make it into the postseason, Broncos fans hope that that's when they make it into the postseason. They know that they are going to be going into Buffalo to take on the Bills. Is this the worst case scenario for the Broncos, or do you think it would have been worse for the Broncos to have to go into Baltimore to play the Ravens, or even if the Bills were somehow able to jump the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago that play the Chiefs?
Well, I mean, you're going to go up against one of the 2 MVPs, whether it's Lamar or Josh. You're going to see one of those guys, no matter where you go. And so that's the first challenge, is how to contain those 2 players, because Lamar's playing the best he's ever played, and Josh is playing the best he's ever played. So then you go, okay, defensively, what are you going up against? They're completely different teams. Buffalo is largely a zone team. They got a bunch of Pro Bowl players on it. Some people know their names, some people don't. But, Von Miller's been a Super Bowl MVP on a couple of occasions, and rightfully so. And he's playing great right now. And so he's trying to get ready for the postseason. Baltimore's defense has been fixed. But you guys, I would imagine that whoever they play at running back, if he's out there, it's going to be a challenge. Because obviously Derrick Henry's been a beast all year. And if he gets enough carries, he's going to break long runs in the fourth quarter on you. So you got to do your best to contain him. But either way, Buffalo's offensive line is as good as anybody's in this whole postseason. They don't have a weakness up front. They got 5 starters that started every game this year. They got Deion Dawkins in a Pro Bowl for the 4th year in a row. Like, they're really well coached and they're really good up front.
Baldy, final one for you. In 1 week from now, will we be talking to you about an epic Broncos collapse to the season, or will we be prepping for the Buffalo Bills playoff game with the Broncos?
I know I was throwing caution out there with Carson and the backups you can't see. I think we're preparing for a big playoff game on the road here for the Denver Broncos.
Let's go. We love to hear it, Baldy. We love catching up with you, and we'll love catching up with you next week to talk about that playoff game. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year, Baldy.
Yep, Happy New Year. Yep, talk to you next week.
Man, I so hope Baldy's right. Broncos country really hopes Baldy is right, that we're talking about that big game. And before we can talk about that big game, Broncos got to take care of business against the Chiefs. So, guys, how worried are you? Are you Baldy breaking down Carson Wentz, saying how he's a threat, or are you Baldy at the end saying, like, no, it's going to be okay? I want your answers on that after we give a shout-out to our friends over at Bet365, where so much action. We had games yesterday. We have the Sugar Bowl today. We've got playoffs, essentially playoff football on Saturday and Sunday. And then next week, we've got college football again on Thursday night, Friday night, then literal actual playoff games on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. What a time to get in on the action. If you do, head to Bet365 and use that code DNVR365 when you sign up, because when you do that, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets when you deposit $10, place a $5 bet, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. Notre Dame taking on Georgia today. Notre Dame is a 1-point favorite. Who do you like in that game, Todd?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame can run on them.
Oh my goodness. Georgia has the 4th best run defense.
Yeah, they
the
played
country.
nobody though.
Oh my gosh. Wow. We're gonna have this conversation again next week. But
pizza bet on the SEC.
We do. Yeah. And
Texas snuck through for you.
And we're about to have 2 of the 4 teams in the SEC, or from the SEC in that. But if you want to get in on the betting, you like Notre Dame with those guys, I like Georgia, you can place your bets and download by using that QR code on the screen. Use that code DNVR365. And of course, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, once help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Also, check out Game Time, because they have tickets to everything, including the game on Sunday. Right now, you can get in for $147, which will be a pretty good price, because that's going to be a fun one. As Bo Nix said yesterday, if he was wearing orange and blue and hadn't been to the playoffs in almost a decade, he'd probably be standing and screaming the entire game. So that's kind of what I expect from Broncos fans. And I wonder how big the celebration is after the game if they win. Because they won't do like confetti or anything, but that's going to be a big moment in Denver. So if you're trying to get to the game, make sure you get to Game Time. I recommend you go, because this is a big one. They've got all the other stuff too, whether it's the Nuggets, the Avs are home tonight playing the Sabres, so you can check that out as well. All sorts of stuff over at Game Time, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right, guys, and shout out to Bet365, our presenting sponsor. Last time we talked about this on Monday, we didn't officially know if the Chiefs were going to play their backups. We thought that was going to be the case. And we had the conversation, and Henry and I, you and I disagreed. You thought that Andy Reid would love nothing more than to come into Denver with his backups and beat Sean Payton. And I thought it was the opposite. I thought Andy Reid wants to kind of just lose this game, get the Broncos into the playoffs instead of Joe Burrow and the Bengals going into the playoffs. But, of course, he's not going to send Patrick Mahomes out there and say lose the game. So he's going to do it by playing Carson Wentz. There was a report out there from Jordan Schultz that said not only is Carson Wentz going to start, you may see their practice squad quarterback, I don't even know his name, play in this game. So to me, I feel like, oh my gosh, Andy Reid just giving this one up. Do you feel the same way, or are you sticking with your guns?
I think Andy Reid wants this game as much as any other. I think once you get to the point where, like, his trophy case is full, he has, like, he's achieved just about anything you could achieve, and he wants to keep going and winning Super Bowls, doing all that sort of stuff. But the opportunity to embarrass a division rival, I think that might be the last thing left that kind of makes you feel something. Like, yes, 16-1 is great, but I think regular season games, I don't want to say they get boring for a guy like Andy Reid, but they certainly don't mean all that much. When you have an opportunity like this to just basically destroy the hopes of an entire city, that's the kind of stuff that at least I would live for, and I'd imagine he would
You
too.
are crazy. What you just
Really?
said is Andy Reid already has the championship trophies. He doesn't need any more. He wants to embarrass
I did
Sean
not
Payton.
say that.
That's essentially what you said.
No, I literally said the opposite.
I
Said he wants to keep winning more.
I don't think that's really what
No.
you said. I think it's crazy. I think he does not want to play Joe Burrow. And if they play a practice squad quarterback, that is Andy Reid doing everything he possibly can to say, fine, Broncos win this, get in, so we don't have to face Joe Burrow.
I just think you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Like when you're wired that way.
That's why you put backups in. Is then the coaches don't have to turn it off.
That's not why you put the backups in.
No, I
Yes,
think
it
I
is.
think
To
you
keep
I
that-
think you
literally
still
keep the
wanna-
starters
I think
healthy.
you still want to win this game, and I think you put the backups in not to lose the game, but to make sure that Carson Wentz is healthy in case anything happens to Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. You know, but I think that ultimately they're gonna try and win the game. Now, will he be like pissed off, yelling and screaming after the game if they lose? Absolutely not.
No.
They're secure the number one spot. They're not that worried. But I do think he's going to try, especially in the first half, to put together some plays to win the game.
What's the locker room like if they win this game compared to like if they won, just say whatever random game in October?
The Chiefs?
Yeah. I'd say this one's the bigger party.
I don't know if it's a party. I just feel like it's just like the mentality that we really are that good that we can go out there and beat them with our backups. Like there should be nobody that can touch us in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're partying though.
I mean,
doubt
maybe
they're
not party, but I think the energy after you, again, hopefully it doesn't happen. The energy after you pull that upset and, you know, Carson Wentz gets his big redemption moment and all these young guys get their opportunity. Like that to me just seems like that's the kind of moment you live for. It reminds me of, remember when the Nuggets went down to Utah when they had just made the trade? I forget who it was for, but they only had 7 guys who could play. So they only had 7 guys who could play the entire game, and most of them were backups. And went down there and beat like Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and it's like incredible. And so like anniversary every year, everybody posts a picture of them on the plane ride home. Like it's just a game like that. It's one that's like, because it doesn't mean anything, it almost means more.
No.
Because it's like just
You're
a straight up.
stretching.
It's like a culture win, you know?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Really?
And I think that they're doing this for a reason. One, to keep Patrick Mahomes healthy, and also if they play a practice squad quarterback, that is the furthest thing you can do from trying to win a game. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but if they do that, that is full commitment to losing this game without having to say, like, Patrick Mahomes, go throw a couple of picks in this game. That would be just absolutely wild. If they play a practice squad quarterback, you cannot sell me one bit that they're trying to win the game. But regardless, I don't think we're going to see eye to eye, which is okay with this. How scared are you guys of the backups? We certainly know that Patrick Mahomes is not playing. Andy Reid has made that very clear. Carson Wentz is starting the game. And then it's kind of up to speculation who else is not going to play. They might sit Pacheco. They likely would sit Travis Kelce, might and likely sit DeAndre Hopkins, likely sit Chris Jones, potentially even other guys on their team. They might be up to like 10 starters that they rest. But regardless, it's going to be at least a couple of key starters. With that, how concerned are you about a Chiefs team?
I'm still concerned. I think they're still the team that finds ways to win close games. And then some of those positions you mentioned, a lot of them rotate during the game anyway. So although you're not seeing maybe Travis Kelce a majority of the plays, the tight ends that were balling all year and playing very well for them that got a lot of snaps are now just getting a few more snaps. So I think that they're still a very good team. They're still the number 1 seed. And that culture of winning is still there. So I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think it's a game that we could and should win, but I do think they're going to try and hit us in the mouth and win the game.
Yeah. I think on paper, I think you should beat them by 2 touchdowns on paper. But at the same time, we'll see what happens. I think I would not be surprised if Carson Wentz matches Bo Nix. I would not be surprised if the Chiefs' running game matches the Broncos' running game. Like, I would not be surprised if... I think the Broncos' defensive front should be better than the Chiefs, but there are a couple of those spots where you think the Broncos should be better. If this is the game where the Chiefs play better, though, I'm not going to be totally shocked on Monday that's what happened.
Because how much better are the Chiefs than the Raiders? 5 times, 10 times better, their roster?
A ton.
A ton, right?
Yeah.
They beat them by 2 points.
Yeah.
It's the AFC West. Like I say, it's going to be a close game. And it might come down to the wire, even if it is the backups.
Yep.
You have one team playing for everything. You have one team literally sitting
We've
guys.
been playing for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Back-to-back weeks, and they've been real close games against really good teams.
Yeah.
Now you're playing a really good team, the best team in the AFC, playing their backups. I think this is being overthought right now
Will this be
by
the
Broncos
first,
country.
Will this be the first team that we beat with a winning record?
No,
The
they beat Tampa Bay Bucks.
So it'd be the second team would be all year with a winning record.
Yes,
The Falcons
they are
no longer
playing
have
their
one, right? Yeah.
backups. If the Chiefs did not have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, and all these guys that they're going to sit, they would not be this good. They wouldn't be as close to this good. They probably wouldn't have a winning record. And the Broncos, credit to them, they have taken care of business against the teams they need to take care of business with. When they're favored in games, they win them. When they're not favored in games, they lose them. It is pretty clear-cut how that way has gone. But they have beat the teams they should beat. Broncos are 10.5-point favorites in this game. I think there's just a
What
little
were they
too
against
much.
the Patriots, though?
That was last year. That's
That
a
was
totally
11.
different team.
Oh, okay.
That's a different team. And that team you couldn't trust. This team you can trust. I've said it every single week when they play a bad team. You can trust them, and then they go out and they win the game. I think there's just a little too much scared tactics out there right now about this game. Now, I don't think if the Broncos approach it the way I am, then they're totally screwed. But I don't think they're approaching it like that. I'm not Sean Payton. I'm not leading this team right now. I'm on the outside looking in, and I don't think they're looking at it like that. So I'm not saying they can approach it as a gimme game. But from an outside perspective, they have won these games all season long.
I mean, how many players do you think will sit on defense? 1?
McDuffie,
I bet McDuffie, too.
you just might as well sit him.
And then maybe Karlaftis.
Yeah. I mean, the
Like
Chiefs
Baldy
literally
said, this would be
Yeah.
like 3 weeks of rest. I think a lot of
24
players may
days,
even
yeah.
play the first half. So I think maybe just Chris Jones
Mahomes
and
Kelce.
Mahomes and Kelce. That's what
Oh,
I'm
man.
like picturing in my brain. Just because everybody else is good, but at the same time, not good enough to take 3 weeks off. Like, you guys still got to be running and still got to be. But everybody else, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, they know the system so well that they can take a little bit more time off. I think most of their starters play even if it's just the first half.
But the thing is, and I don't know exactly how deep Andy Reid has gone on this in the past, but every single time that they have the number 1 seed locked up, he rests guys the final week of the season.
How many?
Even I don't know. I don't know how
It's
deep
been
it goes.
4. They're 2-2.
No, how many
How
guys
many
does he
guys?
rest?
I'm not sure.
But like
Always the quarterback.
But Mahomes or Reid doesn't think that time off, that having 3 weeks off, is going to hurt his team, and it really hasn't in the past. In fact, it's never hurt him in the past. They've always gone and at least won that first playoff game. So I understand what you're talking about, like that time off, but I just think Andy Reid is like, man, I've done it before, especially with this group many times. I'm not concerned about it.
I just wonder because this was a unique situation with the scheduling more so than any other year.
Playing Christmas.
Because they played and then they had a long break and they're going to have this and then another. Normally you just play Sunday, and then you have the extra bye week and then you play. So it's a normal amount of rest.
So it's
But just
24 days instead of 20. Is that big of a difference?
Yeah, I think so. That's
think
a
so.
long
It's a
time.
long time.
Well,
It's a
yeah,
long
but I
time.
mean, 20 compared to 24, I don't think is like,
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
okay.
4 more days of like, I don't know, playing. I think it's the same thing as playing Monday versus playing Thursday. 4 more days could be a lot.
But you also have 20 days in the middle as well.
Is
along
it 20
with those
days?
4.
Is
That's
it usually 20 days?
Yeah, because for them, I think it's around there.
But
It's
the
like
thing is,
3
like, you could do
weeks.
that with any number. It's like, is 20 that different from 24? Is 24 that different from 28? Is 28
But that's
that
not what
different
I'm
from
saying.
22?
I'm saying 20 to
But again,
24.
like,
I'm not saying.
At some point. But it'd be the same argument. Like, where you fall, like, at some point you have to make the break. Otherwise, it's all the same.
I'm just saying I don't think Andy Reid is worried about that. So I don't think he's worried about playing guys for an entire half in order for them to get enough snaps. I think he's proven that in the past enough. I want to know what Broncos country's feeling. Let us know in the Toyota chat. How are you feeling about this game? Are you pretty darn confident the Broncos are going to take care of business, or are you worried about this? And one of the things that hasn't been brought up, and I want to know if you guys are concerned about this as well. Baldy brought it up a little bit, but some people, especially when I've mentioned, like, man, I'm not worried about this Chiefs team, they say, well, Carson Wentz has been an MVP candidate. That's true. He was an MVP candidate back in 2017. You know how much has changed since 2017? He's a backup now. He's bounced around the league right now. That's not who Carson Wentz is. Does he have that in him? I guess. In 2017, he had that in him. But I think Carson is going to be better than just your average backup. But I don't think he's going to come out and look like an MVP favorite. I don't think he's going to look like Patrick Mahomes, and he should just be wearing number 15. He's going to be fine. In fact, Baldy pointed to a game that he had last season, and last season when he played, he threw for 163 yards. It's not like he lit the world on fire there. He did run the ball, so that's something the Broncos are going to have to be focused on, but he's not going to light them up.
I think it's just being cautious, but we've seen it with Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco. Like, I don't think that he's a great quarterback anymore, but I do think he can give you a game, and I just don't want it to be this game.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you go out there and you play and you see what happens. You hope he throws picks, but you're not too surprised if he doesn't. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I think, yeah, we saw Jameis Winston take the Broncos down to, like, the fourth quarter, Carson Wentz, Jameis Winston, I take your pick, I guess. I'll go with the guy who has spent a year with Andy Reid.
That's fair. And speaking of that game, really quick, just because I don't know who in the Twitter chat pointed this out, but I think it was Jose said the Broncos finally got Jerry Jeudy a Pro Bowl season because he had 20% of his yards against the Broncos, 25% of his touchdowns against the Broncos, and crazy enough, guys, Jerry Jeudy is a starter in the Pro Bowl this year.
It's crazy. It's wild.
Yep.
That's wild. But I mean, he earned it. He went out there and put up the yards.
If he just continues the streak he's on, he's going to have over 1,200 yards this season, which is by far way better than anything he did in Denver.
I'm guarantee he's getting more targets too, though.
Yeah, get more targets, way more catches, way more receiving yards, way more touchdowns. So the opportunities are definitely there as well. Okay, guys, let's make our picks.
Yep.
I want to know, how scared are you guys of this game? And before we do that, do we have our standings for where we all are right now? No, don't have that. I've got it. I'm not sure, but I've got it on right here. Henry is still in first place in our picks for the AFC West this season. He is at 37-14. I'm 2 games behind at 35-16. Todd, you're 29-22, and Ryan is 26-24. Henry, it looks like you're going to win the regular season, but can you keep it going in the playoffs? So we'll start with you. What's this Broncos score going to be?
Give me 23-9 Broncos.
So you've just been scaring us all week for nothing.
No, I said like they should beat them by 2 scores. Like they should do it. But again, like I've thought that they would win games in the past. I thought they'd lose games. I've been wrong. Not often.
Give me 24-17 Broncos.
24-17, Todd. I like that score a ton, but I'm going to go 27-17 for the Broncos. I think, Henry, you brought up a really good point. What's that Broncos locker room going to be like after the game? Because they know they have to turn around and play a playoff game in 6 or 7 days right after that. But they did also just make the playoffs for the first time in pretty much a decade. That's a big deal right there. How do they handle that? And I think that Sean is going to want to try to run the score up to give these guys confidence going in, especially because maybe they didn't truly lose confidence over these past 2 weeks, but you're on 2-game winning streak, losing streak. You go into the playoffs 1-2 in your past 3 games. I think Sean's going to try to do everything he can, especially to give Bo confidence. So I think he's going to get close to 30 points, 27-17. And Ryan has the Broncos winning as well, 24-3. So Henry and Ryan actually have the Broncos covering, and Todd and I have it being a little bit of a closer game there. But Todd, what do you think? This locker room, I mean, you've been in this locker room when you've clinched a playoff spot, when you've won a Super Bowl, and you've also been in when it's been disappointing years. How do you think this locker room responds?
It's going to be a great vibe. I think they're going to be good. They're not even going to be thinking about whether they beat backups or not. They're just purely going to be happy that they made their way into the postseason. And we talked about they put themselves in this position. I know the Chiefs helped us out a little bit by being the number 1 seed, but ultimately it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get into the postseason. So Club Dub should be popping. They should have a great time. They shouldn't party too hard, but I think they're going to have some fun.
They're going to party hard.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a way around it. I think they have those fog machines going, and sometimes the fog just kind of leaks out a little bit while we're waiting to go in. I think it's just going to fog up the entire hallway. At one point, I think they set the alarm off. But that was, I can't remember what game that was. That was a long time ago. Club Dub has not been popping recently. I think this time it's back.
I think it'll definitely be back. And they should enjoy this. This is a big accomplishment. And I agree, Todd, they're not going to look at the last 2 games when they're in that locker room celebrating. They got to 10. Sean Payton for weeks has been saying it's all about getting to 10. He even had it written on his notes one day at practice. Get to 10. Get to 10 wins, secure a playoff berth, and then you have just broken every single streak that you entered with 2 years ago. You have a winning record. You've broken the streak against the losing streak against the Chiefs. You've broken the losing streak against the Raiders. You've made the playoffs. You found your franchise quarterback. You've done everything you needed to do. And then after this year, you set your sights on the Super Bowl and how you get there. Next year, it might be like making the AFC Championship game. Then the year after, the Super Bowl. But this year, they would have completed everything. So you should celebrate. You should enjoy it for a day, and then you quickly move on to Baltimore, especially because that game could be on a Saturday. So it's I think it's going to be incredible vibes down there at the stadium this weekend. We all think the Broncos are going to win. Let us know in the Twitter chat if you think the Broncos are going to win as well. And there's only one other AFC West game this week. And Todd, I'll start with you. Chargers going in to Vegas to play the Raiders. Who wins this?
Chargers. Raiders are cooked. But the Chargers could technically rest their starters too, right? Because they've already clinched the 6 seed.
Are they locked into the 6?
I think they could move up because the Steelers still have something to play for. That's why the Bengals don't have an easy game to win.
Yes, because if the Steelers lose and the Chargers win, they will jump them because the Chargers will be 11-6. Steelers will be 10-7. So... But the Chargers will know that going into their game because the Steelers play Saturday night.
But you gotta prepare somebody all week.
Yeah.
So they would have to know. You know what I'm saying?
That'd
you can't
terrible.
just say
Easton Stick, get in there.
Yeah, jump in.
No reps all week.
He should be ready though. Like, wouldn't that
he
be
didn't
something where
practice all
maybe
week.
you play Justin Herbert for a quarter or a half?
Yeah, you may
and
be
then
playing
you bench
for a
him?
while though. Yeah. He should be ready, but it's nothing like taking like a week full of reps to really be prepared as opposed to getting thrown in the fire.
To your point, Todd, the Chargers can't fall to the Broncos. Even if they lose and the Broncos win, they'll have the same record at 10-7. But because the Chargers won both the games, they have the tiebreaker, so they can't go any further back than 6.
Yeah, give me the Chargers. I think the Chargers still find a way to win the game, even if it is Easton Stick.
Yeah, me too. I got the Chargers.
Todd, you said the Raiders are 5 times worse than the Chiefs.
Yeah,
is that what you said? How many times worse are they than the Chargers? 3?
3. Yeah,
3.
3
So even if their backups play half the game and the Chargers aren't motivated by much, I still think they probably get the win.
What if it was the Chiefs backups going to play the Raiders?
Yeah, I think it all matters who's being sat, but I think that's a winnable game for the Chiefs.
What would that line be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. Close. Oh, my goodness. You know what's wild? When the Broncos played the Chiefs earlier this year, they were, I think, 9-point underdogs. Now at home against the Chiefs backups, they're 10.5. That's a swing of almost 20 betting points, which is insane. Now, obviously, that one was on the road in Kansas City. This one's in Denver, but that is just wild how big of a difference that is. That might be the biggest difference in I wonder how that would be in terms of like a team playing twice in the same year and having the biggest spread differences. That's way up there. And there's 2 other games. What? Yeah, I've got the Chargers as well. And Ryan has the Chargers as well. There's two other games this week that could impact the Broncos. That Saturday night game with the Bengals going into Pittsburgh to play that game. Who do you think wins that? Because obviously Broncos country is pulling for Russell Wilson. Knock off the Bengals, because there's one other scenario. If the Broncos win or tie, they're in. If the Broncos lose, but the Bengals lose or tie, and the Dolphins lose or tie to the Jets, the Broncos are still in the playoffs there. Todd, who do you think wins between the Bengals and Steelers?
The Bengals might have caught a little bit of fire, and it feels like the Steelers fire is kind of like burning out.
They're on a 3-game losing streak.
Yeah, Russ is. We're on a 2, so we can't look at them too bad. So I think Russ's magic may have dwindled just a little bit, but that's another guy who was a backup to start the season, but had a couple good games. So I think the Bengals find a way to win that game.
Yeah, I think the Bengals win. I think they're favored. Again, the Steelers, they didn't really play any tough games or didn't win any tough games most of the way through. Then they hit the stretch where it's like, who'd they lose to? Chiefs, maybe? The Ravens?
And the Eagles.
The Eagles. So, I mean, I think we found out that they're like a decent team.
But
the Bengals
they
right
beat
now.
the Ravens earlier that year.
They beat
They
the
did.
Ravens. They beat the
Divisional.
Commanders.
Good.
Yeah, it's a good win. It's also a divisional win. I think
They beat the Broncos. That's a good win.
Not then.
That's fair.
Yeah. I got the Bengals.
Yeah, I've got the Bengals as well. You talk about two teams going in opposite directions there. And let's hope that's not the case, though, because the Broncos could go into Sunday with an opportunity to clinch with them having to do nothing. But at the same time as the Broncos game, the Dolphins are playing the Jets in New York. If the Dolphins, again, lose, that's good news for the Broncos. Can Aaron Rodgers, in maybe his last game, help the Broncos out?
No,
Yeah.
not against the Dolphins. Aaron, yeah. I want to watch his documentary. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks like it's some funny moments in there. No, but I don't think they can find a way to win.
Yeah. It's Tyler Huntley versus Aaron Rodgers, and I've got Tyler Huntley.
Oh, yes, Henry. I love that. Because it's Tyler Huntley, unfortunately, I'll give the nod to the Jets. But that's actually good news for the Broncos. Todd, let me throw this scenario out. The Broncos lose. The Bengals have already lost. They knew that going into this game. But the Dolphins game's at the same time as the Broncos. The Dolphins lose. Broncos clinch a playoff spot by losing on a 3-game losing streak, but they're in the playoffs for the first time since 2015. What's that locker room like? Let's say the Dolphins game ends right before the Broncos game ends.
I don't know. I've never been in that position. It doesn't feel like they'll be happy that they got in, but ultimately you just feel like you barely got in. You snuck in. Like you needed help from so many other teams to just play worse. It's not that you actually won a playoff game to get in. So, oh man, that would feel terrible. And I feel like that would just lead to a blowout the next week in Buffalo.
I think a lot of roads might be leading to that, though. Basically, there's like two feelings. We just made the playoffs, and so you're very happy, but then also we just got embarrassed by the Chiefs. So I don't know, like, which one of those feelings outweighs the other, or which one, like, comes first. And maybe you feel the other a couple days later. I'm not really sure.
I agree. I think it'd be like just a swing of emotion. But initially, I don't think you can feel good. Like, Sean can't turn club dub on. Sean can't turn, like, playoff mode on.
No.
Clinching. I think it would be very weird, not in a good way, Sunday night. And then Monday, it would be like, okay, we accomplished our goal of making it to the playoffs. Let's go into Buffalo. Maybe it would actually help lead to a Broncos win, because we've seen, I think, what is it? The last 2 or 3 teams that have made the playoffs with a losing record have won their first game in the playoffs. And it just makes no sense. Maybe this would kind of lead to that. This makes no sense that the Broncos go into Buffalo and win. On a 3-game losing streak, they're able to. But that would be crazy to see. A Broncos team that loses and clinches the playoffs on the same day.
I hope we don't see that. I pray to God that's not how we get into the playoffs.
Yep.
And the national media would just be crushing them. They'd say in the past month, since their bye week, the only team they beat is a Jameis Winston Browns team.
And barely did that.
Or no, I guess they beat the Colts. Yeah, they beat the Colts right after that. But an Anthony Richardson-led Colts team who just lost to the Giants this past week. Let's not put those vibes out there too much longer. So we all think it's going to be, we're talking about a Broncos win on Sunday night, and then playoffs start Monday, where the Broncos will be looking at the Buffalo Bills. But Broncos got to take care of business this week, and we appreciate everyone who's been rocking and rolling with us this week. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and happy playoff run for the Denver Broncos, and it starts this week. We got one quick super chat coming in from our friend Broncos Only, who says, Happy New Year, Todd. Today is the 5-year anniversary of when I started listening to DNVR. Thanks for keeping it exciting. Shout out to Zach, RK, Mace, Henry, Todd, super producer Kale, and Yahir. And shout out to you, Broncos Only, for riding us for 5 years. Hopefully this is the first play riding with us for 5 years. Hopefully this is the first time we're all riding a playoff run right now. Thank you, Broncos Only. Thank you to everyone tuning in. We'll see you on Sunday for the pregame show and a postgame victory playoff show.
We all silly like the mayor.